Hello everybody, welcome back from on top of the wall. My name is Spike. As the name suggests, I am spiky and competitive, and this week we have a competitive deck list called Zhur-Taa Druid Jund. It is a fantastic deck that has this modern-esque like feel of just like playing these lightning bolts, playing these undercosted creatures, dealing damage to your opponent, attritioning them out of the game, making them discard, all this fun stuff, and all the pain that our opponents didn't ask for, but we're gonna give them anyway, because we know that they want it. So let's get into this week's deck tech. Let's start with our two different mana dorks. We have 4 werebears and 4 Zhur-Taa druids. As the name suggests, these are both 2-cost mana dorks, so of course if we're trying to play on curve, we are going to be trying to hit our 4-drop on turn 3, but after ramping on turn 2, so that way we can outclass most of what our opponent is doing. These mana dorks, they aren't just like regular mana dorks. Zhur-Taa druid, every time that it taps to ping our opponent for damage, it reduces its own cost and gets us closer to equating to a free burn spell. Like imagine tapping it 3 times and we basically get a free lightning bolt that also produces us 1 mana. That's not a bad card to have in any deck. That'd be a great card, and this just does it very slowly over time. Whereas Werebear, oh god, I can't believe it's Werebear. Finally found a deck for you, Werebear, is a 2/2 that later in the game, after we have Threshold, can become a 4/4 mana dork, which is fantastic. That's a very good body in Pauper. So after we're done tapping this werebear for mana, and it's maybe later in the game, we have 7 cards in the graveyard, suddenly it's a 4/4 mana dork instead of a 1/1, and now it has become its beater. It's done being a mana dork, so in the late game, it is a beater for 2 mana. In the early game, it is a mana dork. It's great in both parts of the game. I love it. I finally found a home for you. Alright, and now for our 4-drops, our beaters, our good creatures that give us good advantage, immediately stabilize us. We have 2 Blastoderms, a 5/5 with Shroud, and Vanishing 3? Fading 3. Different. I always get Fading and Vanishing confused because they're basically the same mechanic. They're the same mechanic. I don't know why they came out with different names. And this card, as mentioned, great blocker, great attacker. And then we have 2 Thorn of the Black Roses. This creature also helps us stabilize immediately as soon as it hits the board. It's a 1/3 Death Touch, helping to defend us and can poke in for damage unless our opponent wants to really lose a creature, and gives us Monarch. If you're not familiar with the Monarch mechanic, it is a mechanic that gives us an emblem when this creature enters the battlefield, or it takes the emblem from an opponent and gives it to us, making us the Monarch. And at the beginning of the end step, each of our turns, we draw a card. And this gains us a lot of value over a longer period of time. And we are playing attrition games, so this does help us. And Thorn of the Black Rose is a great defender of the Monarch. We have 2 Gavony Unhalloweds and 4 Pyre Hounds. So Gavony Unhallowed is a 2/4 for 4 mana, and Pyre Hound is a 3/2 with Trample for 4 mana. Their bodies aren't impressive, but every time that a creature dies, Gavony Unhallowed gets a little bit bigger with a +1/+1 counter. And every time that we cast a spell with Pyre Hound, our Pyre Hound gets a little bit bigger. Plus, it does have that Trample, so as it gets larger and larger and larger, Trample makes more and more sense on this massive creature. It just busts through tokens like no tomorrow, and it's fantastic at it. And with all of our disruption, casting all of those discard spells, casting all of the lightning bolts and all of our removal spells, destroying creatures, both of these creatures will easily begin to outclass just about everything in the game and can defend us from whatever we need them to. They will demand answers, and if our opponents cannot supply them, they immediately will steamroll over anything in their path to our opponent's face. Now let's get into our disruption. Alright, for our disruption, we have 2 Blightnings, which is, if you count Lava Spike as a card, it is a 3-for-1. It is fantastic against control decks, and it just feels so good at basically just about every part of the game. It is either that last 3 damage on an opponent's dome that you need to kill them and polish off the game, or in the early game, it just destroys the opponent's hand, and gives us a little bit of extra value with that 3 damage, putting them closer to 0, which is where we want them. That's our main win condition, is damage. And we have 2 Echoing Decay, which can sometimes be a 2-for-1. It is basically a more expensive Disfigure, for those of you that play Disfigure in blue and black. This card, there's a lot of tokens and 4-ofs in Pauper right now, so I would very much like to play this over certain other cards. We also have a Chamber's Edict, another kind of 2-for-1 card with flashback, helps support graveyard synergies, helps support Pyrehound and Gavany Unhallowed. Also fights Boggles. Good to have various kinds of removal in this format. I know a lot of you were wondering what happened to that contest last week that's supposed to happen in this video. What's happening now? If you are watching this video, you have a chance to win the deck featured in this video. Just go to my Twitter account, tweet at me the word pancakes, and you will win this featured deck if you were the first person to do so. We also have 3 Lightning Bolts, which is it's an all-star card in every format that it's legal in, played in every format that it's legal in. It's good. It's just a good, well-rounded card, but we don't want to play a 4th copy because there are a few other cards that synergize better with our deck than Lightning Bolt, like Firebolt, which is a 1-mana card, also like Lightning Bolt, deals 2 damage to any creature. Not as good, but a lot of times when we would be using Lightning Bolt to pick off a creature, Firebolt would have been able to do the same job for the same cost. And it has Flashback, again, which synergizes with Pyrehound and Gavany Unhallowed and our graveyard synergies, which we are not entirely dependent on, but like to have for extra value. 3 Terminates, just a good, strong, unconditional removal that hates on regenerate. Just 2 mana, destroy any creature, can't be regenerated. Fantastic. 1 Radiant Lightning that deals 3 to our opponent's face, fits in the 4-drop slot and pings all of our opponent's creatures just in time where a lot of people would be using Electricity. I wanted to include it in the deck as a sort of tiny mini Wrath. We also have a playset of Faithless Looting, 4 Faithless Looting to help make this deck stick together and work properly and support graveyard synergies for Threshold, Flashback, and Retrace, but also to help us get that little cast trigger for Pyrehound and do all these cool things in a reasonable time, in a reasonable manner when we have the mana, and really help support us through a late game and through the early game. Also another fantastic all-star card seen in just about every format that it is legal in. Then we have 1 Flame Jab and 1 Raven's Crime. These are 2 of our Retrace cards in the deck. 1 red for Flame Jab to deal 1 damage to any target, and Raven's Crime makes target player discard a card. They both have the Retrace mechanic, which allows us to discard a card and play its extra cost, in addition to discarding this land card, to recast this card from the graveyard. But note that it does not say exile, Raven's Crime, or Flame Jab. So that means, over the course of a long game, if we are somehow flooding out or we're drawing more lands than we need, oh, we're on 5 lands, we don't want any more lands. Who cares? Discard a card. Oh my, we paid 1 black, we made ourselves discard a land card, and our opponent discarding what might not be a land card? That feels pretty good to me. Cashing in our extra lands for some value. Always good, always to be able to pick off fairies with the Flame Jab. Speaking of lands, I would like to get into our mana base. We are playing 6 forest, 5 mountains, and 1 swamp. It is 12 untapped sources because it is very important that we're able to play things on turn 3. So we need these untapped lands. Of course, we have more forests and mountains for earlier in the game so that way we can cast Zhur-Taa, Druid, and Werebear more effectively than others. And we also need the fixing, so we have a balance of about half and half. We have, as our fixing dual lands, we have 1 Bloodfell Caves, 3 Jungle Hollow, and 4 Rugged Highlands. These dual lands actually are just giving us like 1 little bit of life and helping to support us in the late game and over the long haul by making sure that our mana is fixed and reliable. We have 2 Rakdos Carniums, because interesting thing is, as the game goes longer, we usually are playing less and less green cards. We got our use out of the green mana dorks earlier in the game. We have fewer blaster derms to pay for, and usually we will have a second or a third green mana source available to us, so we can play Rakdos Carnium, pick up one of the green sources, and then discard it to a retrace card, effectively like just keeping our hand size the same, still going up a mana and increasing our land count by one, by 1, increasing the available mana to us, and still keeping that card in hand, still being able to use it for retrace. We also have another thing that we can pick up, our last land, Bojuka Bog. When it enters the battlefield, it enters tapped, and we exile target player's graveyard. So this is a fantastic graveyard hate card against an opponent who may be playing graveyard, and we can use it multiple times in the game potentially. Just good to have incidental little hate cards in the deck. I love having just tiny little incidental like hate things that sort of fit in, don't really hurt us too much, but give us a little bit of a little value and a little leeway here and there to play around. Now on to our sideboard. We have 2 Ancient Grudges, a fantastic card since the dawn of time against Affinity and other graveyards. Just, it helps support Pyrohound and Gavony Unhallowed when we target Mirror Enforcers to kill Mirror Enforcers, or Frogmites, or whatever have you. 2 Multani's Decree fits in the 4-drop slot, which is right where we want it to fit in, so that way we can pop it off on turn 3, get rid of all the auras, gain a bunch of life, put Boggles so far back behind in the race that it's almost unwinnable. Also against Enchantress. I don't know if you've played against an Enchantress deck, but that Enchantress deck is terrible. We have 2 Molten Raids. It is 1 double red sorcery, destroy target land, and if that land was non-basic, deal 2 damage to that land's controller. So that means we can blow up a Tron land, deal damage to Tron, help finish them off in a race. 1 Neil Spellbomb to help fight against graveyards, and leave ours intact, unlike Relic of Progenitus, which is why I'm playing it over Relic in this case. It still draws us the card, and it can still come down at about the same time. We have 4 Pyroblast. Just if we're being honest, it's because of Mono Blue Delver, and is it Delver? It's because of Delver and counter spell decks. It helps fight through all the counter spells that we would need to get rid of, and counter spell and tempo-y decks are actually very good against any decks that like to ramp up and ramp into bigger creatures, because they can throw us off a turn and it feels like we're playing a much longer game and having to regularly just slowly play out our creatures, which is much easier for them to deal with. We also have our 3rd copy of Blightning in the sideboard. I like Blightning. I know you guys know I like Blightning. Another 3-for-1. Oh yeah, just stick that in the sideboard, that's fine. Great against control, love it against control. 1 copy of Feed the Clans, and guess what? Yeah, we have Ferocious in this deck. And yeah, we're gonna gain 10 life for 2 mana against Burn and other aggro decks, helping us stabilize really well against them. We also have 1 copy of Radiant Lightning to help fight against Elves. And more tokens. Sometimes we need a little bit of extra oomph against them, and this really is the card to do it. And the final card in our sideboard is 1 Siphon Life. Super good against Burn, really great against Pestilence, helps us keep that life total up as we're slowly attritioned out by either Pestilence or tried to burn out by mono red or goblins or something. And just being able to slowly put our life total back up and get us out of bolt range is very important. That's it for this deck tech. I hope everybody enjoyed it. I hope everybody gets to play Jund. Unfortunately, I only have the 1 deck to give away. Good luck to everybody who's played, and I hope the winner enjoys the new deck. I hope they enjoy playing it. I hope to see more people on this channel. And don't forget, we're going to be doing more contests in the future. So don't forget to subscribe, hit the little bell icon, and while you're down there, if you don't mind, could you probably throw me a like, oh please. That's what we live on, apparently, on YouTube. And I would be oh so appreciative of that. Subscribing and follow me on Twitter and follow me on Facebook. Help the channel grow, just sharing things that you like. Maybe bragging to your friend like you found this sweet deck list online, yeah. And keep in mind, we're gonna have more cards coming out as new sets come out for all of these decks, and I'm gonna try to keep them all updated. I'm not gonna abandon them. I'm gonna keep updating them as time goes on tapped.net. So remember, Gruul is coming out in the next set. So that means this deck could have a few new upgrades with the next set in Gruul and in Rakdos, and help us actually play to an actually even better game, help us get even higher up and get even a little bit maybe closer to tier 1 status. I feel like this deck has a lot of good games against tier 1 decks, but it needs like an extra card here or there, or needs like something extra. And if I can find what that is, maybe we'll have a chance of just like playing this amazing tier 1 deck that is just actually on top of the format, somewhere like up with Kadotha Bros and up with Tron and Affinity and Delver. So thanks for watching, and if you're new, this is your first face touch, comment in for that face touch, just put your face right up to the screen, that'll be great. There you go, you enjoy that? I know you did.